I first knew something was wrong when my wife smiled at me through the bathroom mirror, but her reflection didn't move. I wish I were kidding. She was brushing her hair, half turned away from the sink. But in the mirror, she was staring right at me, still as glass, smiling. Not blinking, not moving her lips, just grinning. It lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then her real body caught up. She turned to face me and said, "You scared me." I tried to laugh, but my skin crawled. The air in the house was strange after that. I couldn't explain it. There was this disconnect, like someone had rearranged the furniture by half an inch while we slept. Familiar, but not quite. Marin, my wife, acted the same, technically. She said all the right things. Hugged me goodbye in the mornings. Texted me, "Drive safe, red heart," like she always did. But there was something under her voice. A delay. A hollowness. Like she was rehearsing a role she didn't care about anymore. And then came the shoe incident. I was vacuuming the entryway. Yes, I vacuum. I like clean floors, when I noticed her heels. Beige, glossy, low cut. Not the weird part. The weird part was the faint, muddy imprint of another woman's heel pressed on top of them. Like someone had stepped over them in a rush. I picked it up and saw it. The print wasn't her size. Smaller. Narrower. Not Marin's. So I waited. I didn't confront her. I waited until Thursday night, when she said she had to stay late to meet a supplier. I watched her drive off, then went straight to our router and checked the MAC address logs. Yeah, I'm that guy now. Sure enough, a second phone had connected to our Wi-Fi 2 nights earlier. Not hers. Not mine. A device named LC_5. I Googled it. Turns out it matched a default naming convention for Lynette Calloway's iPhone model. An acquaintance Marin claimed she hadn't spoken to since college. I checked Lynette's business page. Her last location tag? Our neighborhood. 2 nights ago. That's when I knew it wasn't just emotional distance anymore. Someone had been in my house. I didn't spiral. I didn't scream. I opened my laptop and quietly booked myself a suit fitting at a boutique Marin never shops at. Then I emailed Lynette Calloway using a burner Gmail I made in college. I was polite, blunt, and prepared for her to block me. But instead, she called. Right away. Her voice was shaking. "I didn't know you existed," she said. I thought she was single. Those words burned more than the photos she sent after. Screenshots of hotel bookings. Voice notes. One short video, just 6 seconds, of Marin laughing as she poured wine into a glass that wasn't hers. I didn't reply. I just whispered, "I knew that wasn't your smile." Lynette and I made a decision. One night, one place, no second chances. The gallery party, invitation only, catered, live string quartet. My wife thought it would be her grand little secret soiree. A launch party for her friend's abstract art line. Private guest list. Silent auction. Fancy lighting. She told me it was just girls, and I nodded like I believed her. But I had a plan. I wasn't coming alone. Lynette and I would walk in side by side. No warning. No fury. No yelling. Just presence. Because nothing destroys a performance faster than the arrival of the audience. And when we did arrive, my wife's face didn't move. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. She just froze. Like her reflection had finally caught up to her. There's something unnerving about watching the person you love forget how to breathe. She didn't flinch when she saw us. She didn't drop her champagne glass. She didn't scream or run. She just stood there, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, frozen in the middle of her own perfectly curated lie. Like a painting that suddenly realized it was being looked at. Lynette stood beside me, her hand light on my arm, but her posture was steel. She wore black, simple, clean, expensive looking. I had never seen anyone weaponize poise before, but she did. Meanwhile, I felt like I was floating. Not triumphant. Not even angry. Just detached. As if I was watching a movie where the characters happened to have our faces. We didn't make a scene. That was the point. We walked in through the arched entry of the gallery like we belonged there, because technically, we did. Our names weren't on the guest list, hers and mine, but we were printed all over the unspoken truth of that room. You could feel it, a slow ripple of tension spreading from the back toward the curated front. People glanced, whispered, turned their heads. And still, Marin didn't move. She was wearing a dress I had never seen before, deep green, backless, expensive. Her hair done in waves, her lips painted in a shade that didn't belong to our bathroom drawer. She had dressed like someone waiting to be desired. The man next to her was halfway through a laugh when he noticed us. That's when the mask slipped. First from his face, then from hers. The laughter around them dimmed like someone hit a switch. You'd think we brought a storm cloud into the room. I didn't walk over. I didn't need to. I just stood there, and she cracked. She blinked. Finally. Then glanced at him. Then at Lynette. And then back at me. Her mouth opened like she might speak, but her voice had abandoned her. She looked exactly how I felt 3 weeks ago when I pulled that muddy heel out of the trash. Unsteady. Cold. Betrayed. Her boyfriend, although I guess that's not what she called him, took a step back. Lynette tilted her head, as if she were looking at an insect under glass. I almost felt bad for the guy. Almost. Marin stepped forward like she was walking through water, and then finally, she spoke. I can explain. That was it. No greeting. No shock. Just that cliché. Those 3 pathetic words. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, no need. My voice sounded thinner than I wanted. But I had rehearsed that line in my head too many times to trip now. You already did. To her. To him. And judging by how quiet this room got, maybe to everyone else here too. She swallowed. Looked around. Her illusion was crumbling. I could see it. The shame crawling up her neck, the twitch in her hand as she debated whether to grab my sleeve or her clutch. I could hear her heartbeat in the silence. Or maybe it was just mine. Then Lynette stepped forward. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She simply handed Marin something. A small silver USB. For your collection, she said softly. You left this at the hotel, along with your dignity. The air left the room. Marin's hand trembled as she took it. Her boyfriend didn't even try to intervene. He looked at Lynette, then at me, and said nothing, which was wise, because anything he could have said would have made it worse. I turned without waiting for more. Lynette followed. We didn't storm out. We didn't slam the door. We simply exited the same way we came in, calm, clean, in control. But the best part? As we left, a woman near the entrance whispered to her date, "Wait, was that her husband?" And he replied, "No, that was her reckoning." We didn't stop walking. But inside me, something had just started. It took her exactly 47 minutes to break. That's how long it was from the moment we walked out of the gallery to the first message on my phone. I didn't even look at it at first. I just saw her name on the lock screen and let the notification sit there like a ticking bomb. By the time I got home, no, not home. By the time I got to my apartment, there were 7 more. I didn't respond. Not because I was strong. Not because I didn't want to. But because I was scared that if I read them, if I let even a single one of her words into my head, I'd do what I always do, rationalize, minimize, start telling myself I misunderstood, that she didn't really mean to lie to me, that maybe I'd pushed her into it somehow. I've done that dance too many times. I knew the steps by heart. This time, I stayed seated. The apartment was still new. Half of it was filled with unopened boxes, and the other half with furniture that didn't match. I'd signed the lease a week before the party, quietly, impulsively. Back then, I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. I just needed a door that she didn't have a key to. I needed a room that didn't reek of fake apologies, and "you're just being insecure again." I sat on the floor with a warm can of beer and the TV off. The silence was strange, not peaceful, not loud, just hollow, like the sound of someone learning to be alone again. At 2:14 a.m., she switched tactics. She stopped texting and called. I watched the screen flash. Incoming call, Marin Orange Heart. The emoji made me sick. I let it ring out. A minute later, another call. Then another. By the 6th attempt, I turned my phone face down and left it on the kitchen counter. It buzzed for another hour. Then it stopped. Around 3:30 a.m., I got up and walked to the window. The city looked like it was sleeping. Or maybe it just didn't care. I could have disappeared that night and no one would have known. Except her. She would have woken up the next morning and realized she'd burned down a marriage, and the man who had carried it alone for years had finally slipped away in the smoke. Except I didn't slip. Not this time. I was still here. Still breathing. Still broken. The next morning, she showed up. I was brushing my teeth when the buzz from the door intercom went off. I knew it was her. I didn't need to check. I looked in the mirror, toothpaste foam in my mouth, hair a mess, and thought, so this is what a man looks like when his world collapses and nobody notices. I didn't press the buzzer. I just let her stand there. A second buzz came. Then a third. Then silence. 5 minutes later, I checked the camera. She was still there, arms folded, wearing sunglasses like it was some kind of disguise. I watched her pace, then sit on the steps. She stayed for almost an hour. I made eggs. She didn't leave. I cleaned up. She was still there. But I didn't let her in. When she finally left, she didn't look angry. She looked like someone walking away from a locked vault they forgot the combination to. That night, she sent me a voice message. Her voice cracked in the middle of it. I could tell she'd rehearsed what she was going to say and then forgot it halfway through. "I know I don't deserve to ask for anything right now," she said. "But I need you to just talk to me. Please. You don't have to forgive me. Just let me explain what you don't know. There's more to it. More to it." As if the betrayal needed bonus features. I didn't listen again. I saved the file, though. I don't know why. Lynette and I exchanged one message the following day. Just a simple, "You okay?" followed by a barely. Nothing dramatic. No talk of revenge or satisfaction. Just two people floating through the wreckage of someone else's fantasy. But somewhere deep in my gut, I knew Maren wasn't done. She wasn't the type to let things die quietly. And what she did next proved it. It started with a fake emergency. 3 days after the gallery, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman's voice, breathless, panicked. "Hi, are you Maren Dawson's husband? She's been in an accident. She gave me your number." My stomach dropped. I didn't ask questions. I grabbed my keys, ran out barefoot, didn't even lock the door behind me. She might have shattered my heart, but I wasn't about to let her bleed out alone. Old reflexes don't die, not even after betrayal. I sped across town, barely remembering the route. She said they were at a strip mall, near a coffee shop. I pulled up, scanning wildly. And there she was, standing next to her car. Perfectly fine. No injuries. No paramedics. Just her, arms crossed, trying to look fragile. She waved like we were meeting for coffee. I slammed the brakes and just sat there for a moment, trying to make sense of the scene. Then it hit me. The voice on the phone hadn't been hers. She had roped in someone else, probably a friend or coworker, to fake a medical scare just to get me to show up. I stepped out slowly. "Is this a joke?" I asked. "I needed to see you," she said, her voice trembling. "You weren't answering. I was losing you. You already lost me." She flinched like I'd slapped her. I didn't care. "You lied," I continued. "You dragged someone else's wife into your mess. You invited your boyfriend into our home. And now what? You're hijacking emergencies?" Her eyes filled. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. Silence. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. I could see the performance struggling to come together behind her eyes, like an actress forgetting her lines mid-scene. "I made a mistake," she finally said. "A mistake," I repeated. "Was it the first hotel? Or the fourth?" Her face went pale. That was when I got back in the car. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just left her standing there, in the parking lot, next to her spotless car, under a sky that didn't care how much she cried. But even then, I knew she wouldn't stop. This wasn't guilt. This was panic. The kind of panic that only comes when someone realizes the person they never thought would leave actually walked away. And she was about to do something far worse. I should have seen it coming. When manipulation stops working one-on-one, people like Maren don't stop. They scale it. And that's exactly what she did. She couldn't reach me directly anymore. So she weaponized the one thing I hadn't thought to protect, my reputation. It started with small things. Friends suddenly got weird. A group text went silent. My coworker, Lenny, who'd always invited me out for trivia nights, suddenly stopped responding. Then came the awkward email from my cousin Dean. "Hey man, just checking in. Heard some stuff. You okay?" Stuff? I didn't understand what was happening until an old friend finally forwarded me a message. A long, rambling, absolutely pitiful email Maren had sent out to over a dozen mutual contacts. She painted herself as the victim, claimed I had abandoned her during a mental health crisis, said she had never cheated, that I was paranoid, jealous, and worst of all, that Lynette and I had planned a public ambush to humiliate her. I read it twice, then a third time. I almost laughed. Almost. There was no mention of the photos, the hotel receipts, the months of secret messages, or the nights she'd stayed out, working late, while I sat home warming her dinner until it curdled. No, in her version of the story, she was just a wounded wife trying to hold her marriage together while her emotionally distant husband drifted away into bitterness and revenge. It was vile. But worse than that, it worked. People started reaching out to me, not with sympathy, but with quiet judgment. Not asking what happened, but telling me I should talk to someone, and maybe forgive her if you still love her deep down. It was like I'd been recast as the villain in my own life, and she was now the tragic heroine in a dress soaked in invisible tears. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I didn't lash out or send a group reply or publish my own counterstory. I waited, because the thing Marin always underestimated about me was that I don't move loud. I move smart. That weekend, I contacted a former client of hers, someone I remembered from years back who owed me a small favor. Turns out he'd recently seen Marin. Not at work, not at a professional mixer, but at a ski cabin retreat. With him, he had photos, and more importantly, he had timestamps. Everything she was telling people about the timeline? False. Her mental breakdown supposedly happened the same week she was photographed in a hot tub with champagne, kissing her ex on the neck like a woman with no consequences in sight. I didn't go nuclear. Not yet. I just gathered. Because sometimes, when someone sets fire to your name, you don't chase the smoke. You wait until the wind changes and send it right back. By the time she asked to meet in person, I already knew what I was going to do. Not because I'd planned some masterstroke of revenge. I'm not that guy, but because I was done playing defense. She wanted to control the story, paint me as the bad guy, and walk away spotless. Fine. Let her talk. Let her dig. I'd just bring a mirror. We met at a neutral place, a tea house near the park. Public. Quiet. Full of people who wouldn't recognize us. She wore a pale coat and oversized sunglasses like she was trying to look fragile, like some misunderstood French movie character. I sat across from her and didn't speak first. Let her stew in it. She took them off slowly, eyes red, but not from crying. Not this time. This was the kind of red that came from staying up too late, crafting lies you knew were collapsing. I just wanted a chance to tell you the truth, she said. I sipped my tea and raised an eyebrow. This'll be new. I never meant to fall for him. I was lonely. You weren't there anymore. That line. That damn line. The same one cheaters always reach for like it's a seatbelt after the crash. I wasn't there. I asked, barely holding my voice steady. I was everywhere. In your car when it broke down. In your inbox when you needed someone to edit your resume. In the kitchen every night you said you didn't feel like cooking. What I wasn't was in your hotel room with him. She flinched. I leaned back. Let it sit. I was scared, she murmured. I didn't know how to fix us. And then he showed up, and it felt safe. You felt safe in secret? I said. In shadows. She tried to reach across the table. I pulled my hands away. She looked around like she expected people to be watching, like maybe she still thought this was a scene that needed the right audience. I panicked, she whispered, when I saw you and her walk in. I swear, something broke inside me. Good. That's what truth does when it hits people who've built their lives out of lies. I set a small envelope on the table. Plain, just like the one I'd pulled out of the trash weeks ago. She looked at it like it might explode. What is it? She asked. Insurance, I said. Inside were copies of the cabin photos. The ones with dates. The ones that contradicted her sob story emails. There were also screenshots of her texts to him, including one where she called me emotionally useless. I hadn't read that one more than once. I couldn't, but I knew she needed to see it again. Why are you showing me this? She asked, eyes shining now. Real tears, but real too late. Because next time you try to rewrite the story, I said calmly, you'll know I already have the receipts. She looked at the envelope like it weighed more than she did. Maybe it did. I stood to leave. She tried to say something else. I didn't wait to hear it. I left her with her untouched tea and her shattered version of events. I didn't destroy her. I just let her sit beside the truth long enough for it to finish the job. I thought we were done. I really did. After that tea house conversation, I thought she'd retreat quietly, lick her wounds, and disappear into the background like all manipulators do when the spotlight burns too hot. But Marin wasn't wired for silence. When she realized she couldn't control me, she tried to control the narrative again, this time in public. I got a text on a Wednesday morning from my old friend Andy. We hadn't talked in months, but the message was short. Bro, she posted a video. You need to see this. My stomach sank. I opened the link. There she was, sitting in our old living room, talking to her phone like it was a confessional. She looked worn out, a little too made up to be convincing. The video was titled, My Side of the Story, I Can't Stay Silent Anymore. She started crying in the first 30 seconds. Talked about how we'd been drifting for years. how I had become emotionally neglectful, how I refused counseling. She even implied that I had issues with control and had made her feel unsafe. She never directly accused me of anything specific. She was too smart for that. But she laced her story with just enough ambiguity to make herself the victim. And the worst part? People believed her. The comments were brutal. Strangers calling me toxic. People praising her strength. A few women even DM'd me to tell me I didn't deserve her. It was surreal. Like someone broke into my life, stole my identity, and reassembled it into a monster. But she made one mistake. She forgot about the fundraiser. It was 2 months ago, a formal dinner hosted by her boyfriend's company. She told me she was going with coworkers. She even posed for a selfie in the driveway and texted it to me with a kiss emoji. But what she didn't know was that I had volunteered that night. Quietly, I had been asked to help run audio backstage for the charity segment. She had no idea I was there. And I had footage, not shaky phone camera stuff. Real video, high-res, from the ballroom cameras. I didn't even think about it at the time, but when I went back through the files and found her slow dancing with him, whispering, laughing, leaning into his shoulder like she belonged there, wearing the same dress she told me was for work, it was all I needed. I didn't upload it publicly. I'm not like her. But I sent it, quietly, directly, to every single person she had shared her story with. No explanations. No angry rants. Just a single clip, 26 seconds long. It didn't take long for the silence to start. The comment section froze. Her supporters stopped tagging her. A few even deleted their reposts of her video entirely. And then she deleted the video too. No apology. No retraction. Just digital dust. That night, she texted me 4 words. "You really did this?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "No, you did." She didn't write back. But I knew. Finally, the story she tried to spin had collapsed under the weight of its own fiction. And I hadn't raised my voice once. 3 weeks passed. No more texts. No calls. No surprise appearances outside my apartment. It was like she had finally accepted it, or at least run out of strategies to delay the inevitable. I thought I'd feel lighter. But honestly, I just felt still. Healing doesn't come with fireworks. It's not dramatic. It's silent. It's taking one deep breath after another and realizing you didn't flinch when her name popped up in your thoughts. It's remembering what peace feels like when no one's lying next to you. I started going on walks again. I deleted every app one didn't need. I picked up my guitar for the first time in 2 years. I saw old friends, the ones who'd stayed quiet when the drama hit, not out of betrayal, but because they didn't want to choose sides. They welcomed me back without conditions. That meant more than they knew. One Saturday morning, I ran into Lynette by total accident. She was at the same coffee shop, standing in line. We didn't hug, didn't make a scene, just smiled like 2 people who had walked through the same fire and come out, not untouched, but alive. She told me she'd filed for divorce. She looked lighter. So did I. We sat for a few minutes, talked about everything except them. No bitterness, just shared quiet. Before she left, she said something I didn't expect. "You know, you didn't just save yourself that night at the gallery. You saved me too." That stuck with me. Later that month, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting immediately. Marin. I didn't open it for 2 days. When I finally did, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't manipulative. Just honest. For once. She said she regretted everything. That she didn't expect to lose the version of me who had always picked her up, always forgiven. That she thought I'd come back. Not because I should, but because I always had. And then she said something I'll never forget. "The hardest part isn't that you left. It's that you left without rage." That's how I knew it was real. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because there was nothing left to say. I had already spoken with my silence. And this time, she finally heard it. 6 months later, I met someone new. Her name's Arden. We didn't meet on an app or through friends. We both reached for the same book at a used bookstore and started laughing because it was comically bad fiction. We talked for an hour about nothing. No pressure. No pasts. Just 2 strangers with too much life behind them and a sudden moment of peace between them. She doesn't ask about my history. Not because she doesn't care, but because she can tell I've already closed the door. And the best part? I don't flinch when I smile anymore. I don't wait for the mirror to lie back at me. I'm still learning, still rebuilding. But for the first time in years, I don't feel invisible in my own life. I'm not just surviving. I'm free.